Hey friends, how's everybody doing? Thought I'd give some thoughts on the Paul McCartney, James Corden Carpool Karaoke episode that everybody's watching and everybody's talking about. And what are my thoughts on it? I had big smiles and big tears as I was watching this thing. I think everybody did. I think the consensus is that this was definitely a good thing. I'd say beyond a good thing. It made me love Paul even more than I have. And I know as Beatlemaniacs we tend to have our issues with Paul, at times. But this was something that they're in the car, they're singing the songs. I wish they did a couple of Wings songs, but that's a minor point. But it was the personal stories that actually got me in this one. I think this is probably my favorite carpool karaoke outside of the Broadway one that he did in 2016 with Lin-Manuel Miranda, Audrey McDonald, Jane Krakowski. That was a really good one. But this, because it was Paul, the personal stories are what got me. And when James broke down crying about Let It Be, I had tears in my eyes. I really had tears in my eyes. Seeing Paul go into the barbershop and the reaction on the lady's face when he came in, that was priceless. And it just showed me that we seem to forget he's just a regular guy. He's just a regular guy who got lucky. Same thing with John. Same thing with George. Same thing with Ringo. And when he went into his house, his old house in Liverpool, the tour guide that was there, who he knocked on the door and was like, oh, for the surprise on her face. Seeing him go through the rooms, this is where John and I wrote. I was still living here when we wrote She Loves You. And we played it to my dad, and he said, can you change it to She Loves You? Yes, yes, yes. That really got me. It just drove home the point that, again, these were just four normal guys. They didn't know, they had no intention of changing the world. They didn't know that they were going to be what they became. And then, of course, I'm glad they went to a pub that wasn't the Cavern when he did his performance, because it's almost typical to go to the Cavern. I heard a rumor that Paul's going to be doing some more of these pub shows, and I hope that's true. Hope he plays some small places in America. I doubt he'll do it in Arizona, but I hope he gets to my old hometown, Chicago, and does something at Double Door. But I loved it, and it made me even more excited for the new album. Yes, Paul's voice has aged, but he's in his 70s. How many people in their 70s are doing what he has done? Yes, you could say the Rolling Stones and Mick's voice is okay, is still okay, but they do change the keys quite a bit on certain songs. That's another topic. I don't want to get into that because this gets into a Beatles versus Stones territory, and I don't like getting into that. But it makes me more excited for the brand new album. And what can you say about it that hasn't already been said? It's my favorite carpool karaoke, and it would be nice if they do a part 2 where he sings where they do some Wing songs. But that's a minor point in this whole thing. That's my take on that. And I want to address something in my previous video where I said, was Frank Sinatra the best singer in the world? And I said, probably not. I need to say that I am a huge Sinatra fan. Sinatra is one of my obsessions. He's the godfather of the concept album. He really is. Every single album he released at Capitol in the 50s is essential. And I'm not talking about the compilations that came out. I'm talking about In the Wee Small Hours, Songs for Swingin' Lovers, Close to You, A Swingin' Affair, A Jolly Christmas from Frank Sinatra, Come Fly With Me, Sinatra sings for Only the Lonely, which to me is the huge masterpiece right there. Come Dance With Me, No One Cares, so many. And I have a lot of them on vinyl. I have the CD box set that all those albums are in. What I was trying to say, I remember having debates with people about Sinatra being a great singer, and they brought up the technical issues about it. My point was, because I knew I would get some people too that said if I said I think Sinatra is one of the greatest singers in the world, they would come down on me for that. The point I was trying to make is that Sinatra, what makes Sinatra a great singer, and this is how I should have said it, what makes Sinatra a great singer is that he knew how to use the weak elements of his voice. He knew when to use the certain areas of his voice that weren't strong. And he used those areas to great effect, especially in the ballads, to make him sound vulnerable. And you could hear it on Only the Lonely. Each place I go, only the lonely. I'm not going to go into the whole song there. But he knew when to use those areas of his voice. And that's what makes him a great singer. And I think Paul, on the two songs, especially I Don't Know, is learning how to use those elements of his voice that are probably not the strongest anymore. And probably the more battle fatigued, you could say, areas of his voice. He learned how to use those in that ballad to make to great effect. So that was my point on that. But I want to preface to say that I am a huge Sinatra fan. Every single album, and I want to do some videos on those eventually, but that's just a big topic for me. Every single album at Capitol in the 50s, they're the first concept albums. Not Sgt. Pepper, not Dark Side of the Moon, Pet Sounds. Those albums are the first concept albums with the great arrangers he had, Nelson Riddle, Billy May, and the underrated Gordon Jenkins. That man knew how to write for strings. And I think eventually I'm going to do a video on Sinatra, the Capitol years versus the reprise years. That would be a good topic. But that's my thoughts on James Corden. Again, I'm editing the videos on the Monkees, so I'll be getting those up hopefully next week. So please stay tuned for that. And some more film stuff. I think I'm going to do an unedited thoughts on the 2001 Space Odyssey 70mm release and 4K. But what are some of your thoughts on the James Corden, Paul McCartney, Carpool Karaoke? I'd love to hear your thoughts as well. Drop me a line. Thank you for subscribing. And until we meet again.